This is pineapple fried rice, a dish that seems designed for Instagram, something that even a lot of Thai people have no idea is a local dish. And yet, this is something that was once the status symbol in all of Siam. It's a dish with connections to the Thai monarchy and old emperors, and even Christopher Columbus himself.
So what is this stuff? Where did it come from and who actually created it? And how did something that was once so revered become anonymous right here in Thailand? This is one of the wildest stories that we've ever covered here on OTR. This is the story of pineapple fried rice. Oh my God, that's really good.
We're in Bangkok, and this is a neighborhood called Nana. And from my house, it's only about half a mile away, but it might as well be another world. This is the domain of tourists and visitors, go-go bars and nightclubs, pina coladas, and pineapple fried rice. Now, the deep, dark secret of Bangkok is that it's a real place, somewhere people go to work and complain about the traffic and live routine lives just like anywhere else. But we don't want you to think about that when you're here on your once-in-a-lifetime holiday. We want you to lose yourself in palm trees and full moon parties, the dream of paradise that inspires 40 million people a year to fly in. That's the Thailand of elephant pants and yoga retreats, not the one of utility bills and office jobs. And it's the Thailand of exotic and foreigner-friendly dishes like this one, found here in Nana but completely absent from my own neighborhood just a few blocks away. I guess what I'm saying is this was the last dish I thought I'd find hidden deep in the ancient archives of old Imperial Thai cookbooks. But there it was. And the deeper we dove, the more incredible the story became. And until today, as far as we know, it's a story that's never been told before. But before we talk about the history of the dish, we need to show you what it is.
Have you ever tried this before?
I've tried it in the U.S.
Yeah, same with me. I've never had this in Thailand before.
Never had it in Thailand.
This is good.
It's delicious. I love it.
So how old is pineapple fried rice, and where did it actually come from? There's no official history of this dish, so we'll need to put the pieces together ourselves. And without much to go on, all we can do is start with what we do know about the dish itself, which, if you take out all the fancy flourishes, is fried rice. And we do know quite a lot about the history of fried rice in Thailand. So our story starts there. Now, this is a massive oversimplification, but the basic story is that the oldest archaeological evidence of fried rice comes from China about 1,500 years ago. But it didn't really start to spread until the advent of what we call the wok. The Chinese wok is actually an adaptation of an Indian pot called a karahi, referenced in Indian texts as far back as 1000 BC. But it was only when the Chinese began to manufacture the pot out of steel, during the Ming Dynasty period somewhere around the 16th century, that stir-frying became the predominant cooking technique, and combined with a rice-based diet, it didn't take long for fried rice to start to boom. In fact, fried rice first seems to have caught on for the same reason it's still popular today, a way to utilize leftovers. By the way, as an interesting side note, woks might have actually shown up in Thailand before they ever got to China, through the Malay Peninsula where they were known as kuali, the word that's actually the origin of the Chinese name for wok. Now, all of that said, this is not a Chinese dish. I mean, we know that for sure. Just trust me if you want, I cooked in China for more than a decade. But it had to come from somewhere, and if it isn't a Chinese dish, but we know that it's old, it uses Chinese techniques, and it first appeared in Thailand, well, that means there's a very strong chance it came from the palace. Because since the days of Ayutthaya, Thai palace chefs have adapted Chinese flavors in their own style to create a form of cuisine called Imperial Thai. And as it happens, one of our favorite Imperial Thai restaurants, Ban Dang by Methavalai Sorndang, owned by a fourth-generation Chinese family, happens to serve pineapple fried rice. Here, pineapple fried rice is something more than photogenic. It's elegant. Every ingredient showcased in perfect balance, and the overall flavor profile something we didn't really expect at all. It's not sweet, but savory, with the biggest difference being the addition of an Indian curry powder heavily seasoned with turmeric, flavoring the rice and the meal itself. Now, alright, right off the top of this video, I told you this was a wild story, but so far you've just seen us talking about some touristy fried rice. If you're wondering when the insanity starts, well, here you go. We get there thanks to finding ingredients like this curry powder, which were first used in the Thai palace in the 17th century, in a stir-fried rice dish which also dates to the same point in time, and by nailing down when this might have begun, we find something else. A global phenomenon right around the start of the 1700s, unlike anything the world has ever seen before or since. This was when entire societies went completely insane over a fruit that would become so valuable that a single serving might cost more than a castle. This, of course, was the pineapple. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and when he went back home, he brought with him a boat full of rotten pineapples. Okay, let me backtrack. Basically, the history of the pineapple starts in South America, where it was originally endemic to the region on the border between what's now Brazil and Paraguay. Since the earliest days of recorded Mesoamerican civilization, the pineapple has been beloved and appreciated, and almost 2,000 years ago, it had already spread across the continent and at least as far north as Mexico. Columbus enters the story on his second expedition to the New World, not 1492, but 1493, where in November on an island now called Guadalupe, he first tasted the plant and was so captivated that on his next return to the region, he filled an entire boat with pineapples and sent them back to Spain. Now, even with modern refrigeration, a transatlantic voyage is no sure thing for a load of fruit, but in the days when ships had sails and the journey took months and everything was exposed to the elements, I mean, you can guess what happened. The shipload of pineapples all rotted. But according to legend, one fruit survived, where it was presented to King Ferdinand II, who described it as surpassing every other fruit on Earth. Encouraged by the Spanish king, it became the highest priority for European explorers to cultivate the pineapple wherever they would settle. But this would not be as easy as they'd hoped. Pineapples don't take to most soil or any climate except just the right combination of warmth and humidity. They rot quickly and don't travel well. And even once actually planted, it takes 2 to 4 years before the plant bears even one single fruit. Throughout the colonial world, pineapples became the ultimate status symbol, with prices in today's money as high as $8,000 for just one single pineapple. In fact, the fruit was such a sign of aristocracy that businesses would actually rent pineapples where the rich would pay a still exorbitant amount, like $1,000, to just put a pineapple as their centerpiece for some high society dinner for one single night, then just give it back the next day. Anyway, it's not exactly clear how the pineapple first reached Southeast Asia, but it's almost certain it would have been through either the Spanish or the Portuguese. But somehow or another, either as a gift or through some attempt at a plantation, it made its way to the Thai king. A gift of a pineapple in the 16th or 17th century for the Siamese emperor would have been like receiving a Rolls Royce or a Rembrandt. Remember, people used to rent these just to show off. And there could have been no greater display of wealth and excess than to serve a dish in the pineapple shell itself. This must have been a breathtaking spectacle for any guest to the palace and the absolute star of the show at an imperial banquet. And while this part does involve a bit of speculation, it does make sense that if you're going to serve a dish in a pineapple shell, what could be more striking than rice? Rising above the top of the shell and decorated with other ingredients that would have at the time been just astronomically expensive luxuries. True old world delicacies like cashews and curry powder may be assembled as the 18th century equivalent of something like this.
Hi. Can you say this is OTR? She's still peeing. She's been peeing for like a solid minute straight. So on the outskirts of Bangkok and kind of all throughout Southeast Asia, you do find organic farms that have things like this, pineapple plants. And obviously now in 2023, finding something like this just means we called a cab and went a few miles away from downtown. But until the 1600s, this didn't exist in Southeast Asia. That was the first time that you started to see pineapple plants brought to the continent. And it really wasn't another almost 300 years before it actually gained a foothold and really started to thrive here. The first commercially viable pineapple plantations in Southeast Asia would have been in what's now Singapore and Malaysia in the 1870s and 1880s. And it's another 40 years after that when it really started to grow. And that was in the Philippines, actually, which is still one of the world's leading pineapple producers today. In the 1910s is the first time we ever saw canned, commercially sold pineapple, and that came out of the Philippines. Anyway, the reason why I bring all that up is because around that time, when this was starting to thrive, is when the dishes in the era of the Thai king Rama V from the palace that had been previously only for the emperor began to filter out to the general public. And we've talked about that on this channel before. Obviously, with the scarcity and the cost of pineapples, until that point, this would not have been something that would have grown in popularity. However, because of the commercial availability of pineapples and the low prices starting around the time of Rama V, you started to see in the 1910s, 1920s, this becomes something that at least for a while was quite easy to find here in Bangkok.
A lot of dishes now associated with Thai cuisine came to the public's attention around the years of Rama V. That's when a few former palace cooks started to bring their recipes into the mainstream. But not all dishes caught on and just immediately became part of the local diet. Like, we covered that in our mango sticky rice video about how that dish took off, but other really similar palace desserts just kind of disappeared. For pineapple fried rice, this never really found a home in everyday Thai cuisine. For one thing, fried rice was still only really eaten in the Chinese community. But also, pineapples were no longer rare or valuable, or maybe the public just didn't like that the dish itself is pretty ostentatious. But anyway, no matter the reason, it just kind of fizzled out, until the 1970s, when travelers started coming to the country and beach resorts sprung up and tourism boomed, and then some enterprising chefs dusted off this old recipe because honestly, when you're paying for an exotic adventure, what could be more appealing than eating something foreign from a pineapple shell? And when Thai restaurants started booming overseas, this dish is basically a trip to paradise without the cost of a plane ticket. So all of that said, if this is the real history, what about the taste? Has the flavor been adapted for foreigners, or is the stuff we find overseas today still exactly the same thing the Siamese emperor might have recognized? Thankfully, we can find at least a clue just a few blocks from my house right in downtown Bangkok. Ruan Malacca is one of the world's best royal Thai restaurants. Here, in a house built in 1807, their chefs prepare Michelin-rated dishes straight from the cookbooks of the old Thai kings. And once again, we talked our way into the kitchen, and here's the cooking process for this one.
This is amazingly good. This is also really different from the other versions that we've tried of this. The things that I would say compared to how you would find this in modern restaurants or in overseas Thai restaurants is that, number one, way more curry. The curry powder is a really pronounced flavor instead of being kind of a subtle note in the background. And it's also quite heavy in black pepper. There's a little, I don't know that I'd call it heat. It's a black pepper taste. That's a real dominant flavor. There's white pepper too, for sure. You look at this and you think, oh, I know what that's going to taste like. It's going to taste like a sweet fried rice with pineapple, but it's not. It's a curried rice dish with cashew. I think this is going to be white meat chicken. We saw this at the Bandeng as well. I mean, if I was an emperor, I would eat this. I eat this now.
So that is the story of pineapple fried rice. A proud royal dish with an ancient history and something that maybe I shouldn't have been so quick to judge. It's fantastic. A masterpiece of flavors and textures and just a brilliant dish with an unbelievable story. And being so wrong about something made me realize that even after a dozen years abroad, I still don't really know anything. And maybe I owe an apology to everyone I've ever laughed at for wearing elephant pants and a Chiang beer t-shirt riding down my street in a tuk-tuk. Who am I to say what's authentic or not? Do whatever you want when you come here. Just make sure you make time for a plate of pineapple fried rice. Subscribe to the channel for more from OTR. Thank you so much to everyone for supporting us on Patreon. It helps to keep us going. For social media and the website, click the links below.
I hate goats. We had goats when I was a kid. They are the meanest animals on earth. I have no love for goats. A goat will kill you if you just give it a chance.